Alrighty guys, well, I just got out of Father Stew and let me tell you. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and today we're getting into Father Stew. We're going to talk about this movie from top to bottom. It is a film I didn't know too much about going into it and learned a lot about coming out of it, but was that good? Was that bad? I'll tell you, trust me. A huge thank you to Sony Pictures again for giving me the chance to review this early for the channel. Now, guys, this film is definitely interesting. Now, the premise sounds, I think, a little bit more interesting than the movie itself, so let's talk about it a little bit. Father Stew is directed and written by Rosalind, and it stars Mark Wahlberg, Jacki Weaver, and Mel Gibson, and it follows the life of Father Stuart Long, a boxer turned priest who inspired countless people during his journey from self-destruction to redemption. Now, this movie is based on a true story that was told to Mark Wahlberg about Father Stuart Long, so it all is definitely something to experience. Now, before we get into what I thought was okay about the movie and what doesn't really work about this film at all, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies and TV like this all the time. So if you do too, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on the bell, and hit the thumbs up button again if you are a fan of Mark Wahlberg. I'm Mark Wahlberg. Alrighty, y'all, so you know what, let's start off on an optimistic note and get right into what I thought was okay about Father Stew. Now, this is kind of like a biopic, so you got to come in here expecting a runtime over 2 hours. You're strapped in, you're going to get the beginning, the middle, and the end of someone's life, so it is a lot to take in. But luckily, Mark Wahlberg makes this at least not the worst thing you'll see all year. You can tell him playing, of course, Stuart Long, the titular character in this movie, he has a lot of passion behind the role, because this is, to me, something that at least seems like he wanted to get up off the ground for a while. He mentions in this featurette that played before a press screening that this is a story he's been wanting to tell for many years. So Mark Wahlberg was 100% bought in. I mean, it's not hard to sell me on Mark Wahlberg the boxer, but Mark Wahlberg the priest-to-be was a different turn for his career. He isn't always in some of these type of roles, but I thought it was okay. You could just tell that he was really bought into it. I mean, there are some moments where they even put him in a fat suit, and you can just tell, man, the prosthetics, the makeup work, it's a different Mark Wahlberg. He's going through different phases of this person's life, and he's in on this, so it makes it at least digestible when he's on screen and he's really in these high intensity dramatic moments. And as someone who is a Christian and a believer in Christ, I do think that the central message of this movie is endearing, and to me it signals that there is nobody that is either too broken or too whole that can't receive love and forgiveness from Jesus. So I loved what they did with the tone of the film. It was very sweet, of course some bittersweet moments along the way, but I really enjoyed at least the middle of the movie. You know, the idea, the foundation is there for this. But unfortunately, you guys, that is where the positives stop for me, because we got to talk about the negatives and why I think this is one of the worst movies of the year. I hate to say that, I really do, because there are a lot of elements here that could be really, really good. I just think that the direction, the writing, and even the acting outside of Mark Wahlberg is not strong. The film really gets in its own way too many times, and it doesn't help that the stars around Mark Wahlberg are not doing the best job. Mel Gibson plays Bill Long, who is Stuart's father, and I am just not a big fan of Mel Gibson at this point in his career. His acting to me is just kind of all over the place. It's a scattershot. You don't know what you're gonna get, but him shouting and screaming at Stuart and everyone around him doesn't make for a good performance. And the writing for these characters, it's just a little weird. It seems like they put all their eggs into one basket for Stuart Long, but for everyone else, they were shallow, they weren't as layered, and I thought that they all didn't have the best dialogue either. It's problematic to a degree too, because they gave Mel Gibson a line about him comparing somebody to Hitler, and I'm like, that's a choice. And then you have Jacki Weaver, who plays Stuart Long's mother, and I even thought that she wasn't necessarily helping the film too much. But I don't want to blame her acting for the reason why her role wasn't so great. It's just, again, the direction and the writing. It gives off a very made-for-TV kind of film in the worst ways possible. There's just not a lot of growth. The characters, they do have an arc to a degree at the end of the film, but all along the way I feel like we were just going in circles. And there were a lot of decisions here, especially with the story of Stuart Long, that made me scratch my head. The film plays with imagery and symbolism quite a bit along the way, but there's one moment in particular that made me groan, and they kind of went back to it a couple of times, and that is Stuart Long, he gets into an accident and he ends up seeing the Virgin Mary. And I'm not kidding, it's somebody who is literally dressed up as who is supposed to be the Virgin Mary in this scene. Now, if somebody tells you they see a bright white light before they die, they can tell you that and you can probably picture it. So we could have done without getting someone who is literally trying to embody a representation of the Virgin Mary on screen. It made people in our theater laugh, and not for the right reasons. I'd imagine that wasn't a moment they had on the script saying, they're gonna laugh at this. And I honestly wasn't a fan of the technical aspects here in Father Stu either. The score was just kind of non-existent for the most part and a little hokey, and then you have the cinematography. I'm sorry, the cinematography here was just all over the place. I didn't like the framing at all. I didn't enjoy some of the way that they shot scenes where it takes you out of the drama of it all. There was one scene in particular where you can tell what they were trying to go for, a scene where you see our two central figures arguing and you're getting a little look-see in between like a chair or whatever, but you get too much of the chair and you get too little of our actors acting, and it's just a cutaway at the worst possible moment. So there are a lot of moments in this movie that just don't add up to a film that is really worth your time, and definitely not worth 2 hours and 4 minutes. What really pains me is that I can see what they were going for with this movie, and I understand that Mark Wahlberg is really passionate about this story and bringing it to the big screen, but unfortunately this movie is a stinker. And y'all know I don't like being negative on the channel, so it does suck to come away from this movie not enjoying it at all. So overall, yes, Father Stu is a film where if you're a huge Mark Wahlberg fan, you're probably gonna see it anyway, but if you're not and you really just don't have that drive to go and watch this in theaters, I will tell you that maybe I don't recommend this experience. It is just all over the place. I do think that maybe this could have been better with a different director and writer, and I don't necessarily know if the length helped this movie either. I just really wish that Father Stu was a more complete project because the story is engaging. There are some interesting plot points. You have Mark Wahlberg giving 110% to this role. It's just everything surrounding him that never works in this movie's favor, and it makes for one of the more forgettable experiences of 2022. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review of Father Stu. Again, a movie that, boy, it could have been much better. But if you do go and see it this Friday when it hits theaters, let me know down below in the comments what you thought of this film. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Are you kind of in the middle? And hey, if you enjoy reviews just like this, don't forget to hit the big red button below. Subscribe to the channel, tap on the bell, and hit the thumbs up button. We got so much content coming out this week. We got a mix of reality TV. We're talking The Ultimatum. We're talking The Kardashians. We're talking more movies. We got The Northman coming this week. Like, Lord, it's going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to go and, well, my hands are going to cramp after all the editing. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. And Mark Wahlberg, don't be mad at me, please.